Good afternoon. We're here at Gear Expo, and I am Randy Stott, Managing Editor of Gear Technology and Power Transmission Engineering magazines. I'm pleased to have with me here today Hans Grass, Vice President of the Machine Tools Group from Star SU, and Roberto Bagni, Product Manager for Gear Machines for Star SU. And we're here today to talk about dry grinding. Gentlemen, can you please describe the basic principles of the dry grinding process? How does it work?
Well, dry grinding has been around for many, many years. And Mark used to dry grind, and that was before we had coolant systems. The idea is to grind a very small amount of stock, so we prevent thermal damage to the gear. We're talking about 10 micrometers per flank.
Mm-hmm. And the big idea is to remove the most of the material on the gears with a hob and leave only a few microns that the scallops on the flank to be removed with the grinding wheel. Okay. This will not increase the temperature of the part, will not damage the part and everything. It will give the same quality of the grinding machine, but with a very good cycle time. We can remove a lot of material with the hobbing, but it's not influenced for the deformation as the grinding.
But in your case, we're not talking about two separate machines.
It's one machine. So one machine has two spindles. One is the spindle to use a skive hob, carbide hob, using a skiving method, which has been around for many years. So it's a proven technology. We use a multi-start. We skive the gear, and then it gets finished ground in the same setup. So there's no two machines involved.
Okay.
It's not possible to do the same operation in two separate machines. Because if you dismantle the part from one spindle, you cannot see the quality because you have run out and probably like that one. So that must be done on the same machine in the same setup.
Yeah.
So it's very important.
Okay. Why is dry grinding important? Why is it important to get the cutting fluids out of the process?
Well, that's a good question. If you look at a wet grinding machine, the filtration system, the coolant tank is huge. It's bigger than the whole machine. So the floor space is a very important consideration. And of course then there's the environment. You need oil mist collectors. You have oil, you have oily parts. And to make a complete green line of production, the dry grinding was the only missing link. Everybody already can do dry hobbing, dry grinding, bore grinding, and all those operations are dry, except grinding was always wet. So it didn't really fit into a green concept.
Okay.
In the European factory, I asked it to do that because they want to remove the oil from all the system. So there was the last operation, needed the oil, was the grind, so they were pushing a lot because they want to be green.
Yeah.
We call it the green factories, without oil, so the maintenance, and oil everywhere. So it was a big step, really big step.
Okay. How does the dry grinding process compare with traditional operations in terms of productivity and quality and the overall cost of manufacturing?
It's basically the same, except you will save a lot of money on your coolant, on your floor space, but the cycle time is the same, quality is the same. We have already proven concepts with Fiat, and the product's been accepted as a new process and works quite well.
Are there certain size of gears or volume of production that are best suited for this process?
Well, obviously, is smaller the pinion, our machine can perform a very quick load-unload time under 2 seconds. So it's very good for small pinions, but we can do manual transmission gears. The load-unload time is not as critical, but because the cycle time is longer.
Okay. What's the maximum size range on the machine?
160 millimeter maximum.
Model 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a typical application for automotive industry, for automatic transmission gears.
Are there applications outside of automotive?
It needs to be a high volume.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not basically suited for a chop shop because of the quick load-unload features.
Absolutely.
What kind of tooth profile modifications can you achieve with this process?
It's the same as wet.
Yeah, it's the same as well.
No difference. Okay.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Without any coolant, how do you avoid grinding burn?
Good question. I expected it. Well, first of all, the process is well controlled with the skiving, and it's in the same machine, so we can control the stock removal very precise. We can also add thermal sensing of the part. The stock removal is basically analog to the temperature of the part coming off the spindle. So we can have an alarm with when the part gets too warm, that there's too much stock.
But normally it doesn't happen because we are hobbing the machine inside the same machine.
Right.
So we
Yes.
can keep under control exactly the stock amount we want to remove for the grinding. So let's say that we are 100% sure we will not burn the gear because we are doing the previous operation on the same machine. But in any case, we have a thermal sensor that can be activated or not to check the temperature of the parts. But this, frankly speaking, is not necessary.
Okay. Are there any special considerations that you have to take into account before heat treat and during heat treatment to ensure that dry grinding is going to be possible?
There's no special requirement.
Okay.
The difference is that when you grind 80, 100 micrometers off a gear, which comes out of heat treat, in the wet process, we basically skive it with the same fluctuation or variation or heat distortion. We take all the 80, 90 micrometers out and make nearly a perfect gear. Skiving makes a very good quality gear. It takes all the pitch line run out of the gear, corrects all the lead variations. So you have a very constant stock removal at the finish dry grind operation.
Does the process require any special grinding tools or hobs that are unusual, or is it what everyone's used to?
Not really. The skive hops are standard multi-start carbide hops, and the grinding wheel is
The
the
standard grinding
wheel.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. This concept was first introduced at EMO in 2015. What kind of improvements have happened since then?
We worked mostly on the hop design to optimize the number of threads and the size of the tool to make it rigid and stiff, and to get the cycle time in line with the grinding time.
Okay.
And we kept the machine under production in Italy. You see the result before putting it in production and sell it. We have kept the machine running and running, making the test with the customer. I think all the customers in the world they already came to us with some gear to test. They go home, they try, and they say are very happy with the result. No different compared to the traditional wet system. They are very happy.
Outside of that customer, to what extent has dry grinding been accepted by the marketplace?
It's typically, it needs to be a new project. If the whole operation is wet, then it makes no sense to put a dry grinder in there. So the customers who plan on new projects and try to plan it all green are certainly very willing to accept the dry grinding machine.
Okay.
At the beginning, they are a little bit afraid because it's
Yeah.
a new type of grinding, so
Sure.
they want to make a test. But after they came to make the test in Italy, they were so happy that now everybody wants to make production and everything like that.
Very good. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience about the dry grinding process?
Well, we're really excited because this is a new machine for us, and it has a very innovative approach to part change with 2 linear motor, making it under less than 2 seconds for change time, which is great. And we're looking forward to have many applications in the future.
And if people want more information, they can go to your booth?
Absolutely.
What's the number?
They will be welcome.
Booth
Or
number?
they're
Right, yeah, absolutely.
1306.
1306.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the
welcome.
time.
You.
We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.